This video tutorial is all about arguments in computer science. An argument in computer science, as is written up here, is an input value for a function. And we're going to see lots of arguments in the code below, so you'll see plenty of examples, and I'm going to take it step by step. So just to show you, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code here, and everything that you see in between these parentheses, these are all arguments. Now, you can ignore this text up here, because we'll talk about that here. You can ignore this text up here for right now. Just focus on the code here, because I'll explain and go through what this information up at the top. So these are all arguments, and again, those arguments are input values for a function. So basically, arguments are specific values that we give to a function so we can use it. So we know for the rect function, we need to give it a width, a height, information for the position. We can put in the color. Those are all examples of arguments, okay? Any value that we give to a function so we can use it, an input value. Now, I wanted to talk in this video a little bit about the difference between required arguments and optional arguments, because oftentimes when you are first learning how to program, the errors that you can get in this console right here can be really frustrating for students. And I just want to make sure that you know what the difference is so that if you do get an error message, you kind of know how to fix it. So required arguments, as is expected, are required. They have to be there. And the way that you can tell whether or not an argument is required is if it doesn't have an equal sign in front of it, okay? Or if there isn't an equal sign anywhere inside of that argument. Optional arguments always have an equal sign inside of those arguments here. So this whole thing, fill is equal to lemon chiffon. That is one optional argument. I know that it's optional because there's an equal sign in the middle. Border equals green. That is also an example of an optional argument. I know that because there's an equal sign. Border width is equal to 10. I know that that's an optional argument because there's an equal sign in between. Rotate angle is equal to 45. I know that that's an optional argument because there's an equal sign in the middle. Okay, all these ones here at the front, these are the required arguments. If I delete one of these, as you can expect, the program's going to say, wait a second, I'm missing a value here. I don't know how to make this rectangle. And it's going to run and say, look, exception, argument count, error. Rect takes 4 arguments, not 3. So I gave it 3 arguments, 200, 50, and 50. And it has a problem with that because it's expecting 4. Left, top, width, and height. So if I press undo, put it back, error message is gone. But notice here, if I delete this rotate angle equals 45, boom. Notice that, okay, yes, my rectangle is no longer rotated, but I don't get an error message in the console down here. Okay, I don't get an error message down here in the console. Okay, so that's really the main thing that I want you to take away from this video. Optional arguments can be deleted without an error in the console. Required arguments cannot be deleted. There needs to be a value there. So you can change the numbers. You can change the numbers, but you need to make sure that there's 4 of these values here at least for a rectangle. You need to make sure that those values, there's a value there for each of the inputs, left, top, width, and height. You want to make sure that there's a value for each of those there. And last but not least, the optional arguments will come at the end. So you'll put the required arguments first, and the optional arguments always have to come after that. You can change fill equals none and put it after border. You can switch the optional arguments around. You can switch the order as long as they come after the required argument. So if I run this, notice how I don't get an error, even though I switched fill and border. But as soon as I take this and put it in the front, I get an error, okay? So those are the main takeaways in this video. Arguments, those are the values that we give to a function so that we can use it. Optional ones have an equal sign in it, and the non-optional ones The required ones do not have an equal sign in it.